Hey, Rooted Wings community. I know this is an odd hour for my lives. I usually have lives during the afternoon, but this one is really important, and it just worked that we were able to get this here at 7 o'clock. So thank you so much for all who are joining in. I'm seeing you pop in. Hopefully I'm not interrupting dinners, but this will be reposted. I am going to be bringing on two nurses out here in California who have a combined almost 35-year experience as nurses. And out here in California, things are getting pretty sketchy for our healthcare workers. We are up against a massive deadline tomorrow in California, and so they are going to come on and share what is happening in California, and then what we can expect going forward. And I just want them to be able to share with you guys their inside view on this. So I'm going to bring them on now. Okay, then I'll do a little intro. Hey, ladies.
Hi.
Hi.
I am so glad we made this work. Thank you both so much for coming on.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, I have on Tawny and Jackie. Tawny has worked at Rady's Children's Hospital for 12 and a half years. She's a mama, a wife, a community member, and she's been caring for some of our most vulnerable children in San Diego County for a long time. And then Jackie also has 20 years of experience. She's also at Rady's Children's Hospital in San Diego, and she's a single mama. So they both have a story to be told, and personal. It's very personal because of how long they've been serving in our community, and then what's at stake at this point given this deadline. So ladies, again, thank you so much for how long you have served, and I'm so sorry about everything that is happening. I want to open up the table right now for you to just share, for those who might not know what's happening in California and then what's happening at Rady's Children's Hospital in San Diego. Can you explain what's going on?
Sure. Yeah. You want to talk
Okay.
about what's going on in California?
Yeah. So what's going on in California is there is a mandate now that all healthcare workers need to be vaccinated to care for patients, whether it be like an acute care setting such as a hospital or in a long-term facility, and also in like hospice care as well. And so it's really affecting the whole healthcare community, all the healthcare providers. And the mandate says that on October 1st, all healthcare providers must be vaccinated, must be fully vaccinated. Or if you're not fully vaccinated, California Public Health Department has allowed for religious and medical exemptions, which many of us have requested religious and medical exemptions. So I'll let Jackie tell you what's happening at Rady's.
So we knew the date was coming with the state mandate, and the communication, unfortunately, hasn't necessarily been effective or clear. And so a lot of this, in my opinion, has just been pushed. And now we're 7 o'clock on Wednesday night and still not really clear on what Friday looks like. So initially, we were given a format of such to present our exemption requests to the hospital directly. I think a lot of us during that period were learning as much as we could about our rights and what, legally we could do, what we should do, what we shouldn't do, but ultimately knew that we have the right to invoke an exemption. We have to explain it. We don't have to prove it. We only have to invoke it and believe it in our heart. So if we believe in our heart that we're making the right choice for us, really no one else has the authority to tell us we're not. And
as nurses, I just want to say, as nurses, that is what is ingrained in us, is protecting the patient's rights, protecting the patient's ability to be able to say, I want this procedure, I want this treatment, I do not want to go through this. There is, you know, the patient, as we're always told, you know, has the final say what is done with their body concerning their health.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so
informed consent is the bedrock of medicine. So it's
it
a
is.
little bit important.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it is. Absolutely. So Rady's they emailed us a letter. We were not informed of the fact that they took a blanket decision of not.
Yeah, and before you go into that, because I want to make this clear for people. So we have the California Department of Public Health. They put out this statement on August 5th. It was in order, and it essentially, I'm holding it up, and I'll post this so that everyone, I always love for people to go directly to the source. So I'll post this, but in this order, this is the big one that's affecting all of our healthcare workers in California. It said that therefore, as state public health officer of the state of California, this order says that all workers, and it goes through all these workers, I mean, it's all of our healthcare workers, must have their first dose of a 1-dose regimen or their second dose of a 2-dose regimen by September 30th, 2021. But then it goes on to say, workers may be exempt from these requirements under Section 1 only upon providing the operator of the facility a declination form signed by the individual stating either of the following: the worker is declining based on religious beliefs, or the worker is excused from receiving this due to qualifying medical reasons. So this is from the state of California. It is very clearly written in here that there are exemptions, and exemptions will be tolerated. But then we have this coming from Rady's, which is very different. So I want you guys to now go into what Rady's position is.
So they somewhat doubled down on the guidelines that were put out, that they had every right within their scope to follow what was suggested by the Department of Health. And we would have most likely, to keep our jobs, continued to test for most of us and continued to show up at work and use PPE and treat patients like we have been doing.
That's something that I really want people to be very clear with, because even the doctors and fellow medical staff at our hospital, like the nurse practitioners and the physicians, had no idea that we are tested. If you are unvaccinated, you are tested twice a week. We are literally safest people in the room with these children, because
it says, so that's all in the order too, that all uninjected and exempt workers must meet the following requirements. They must test with either the PCR or antigen test, and it must occur twice weekly, which is insane.
Yeah.
And they must wear a surgical mask or higher level respirator approved by the National Institute of Occupational Health, that whole thing. So it's it's going above and beyond and saying, if you are not getting this, then this is how often you're tested, which is a heck of a lot. And then you're also wearing all your PPE all the time too.
Yes. And so we submitted our exemptions as requested. We were told that we would have a response by September 8th. September 8th came and went. Most of us were quite hopeful that they would respect our rights. And we're united, and there's a group of us, but we are still the minority. We know we will make an impact when we're not there, but we are still a minority. But we expected them to respect us and have taken some value in what we've contributed to that organization. Weeks went by. We notified them regularly, sometimes twice a day. The amount of anxiety it induced on the staff, not knowing, when are we getting our response? Do I look for another job? Are we fired? Are they keeping us? What is happening? Yeah. So they ultimately...
So I have to say, so you're dealing with the stress of finding out if you have a job and can provide for your family, but you're also dealing with the stress of just our profession in general is incredibly stressful, emotionally taxing, but we love our jobs. I mean, we've been in this for a long time. We love what we do. We love being able to give back to the community, and yet we have all of this added pressure to women. This is happening to women.
Yeah.
Predominantly nursing staff
Mm-hmm.
is women in the community. And so you have the most skilled, the highest skilled, highest professional women in your community caring for your community. And this is the way that organizations are treating us.
So what did they ever get back to you with when you,
What was the date? We were notified. So again, we're united.
so this all, you've seen this order come out from California. Rady's hasn't communicated anything separate at this point.
Order came out from California. They gave us our guidelines. They somewhat led us to believe they instituted a policy about exemptions. They instituted a policy about unvaccinated wearing N95s, and then 48 hours later retracted that.
Okay.
So they've been back and forth with what they're going to do. And really, we had changes to what they presented to us on Saturday today.
Yeah.
So
the 25th, so September 25th,
Saturday.
they sent an email.
This is Rady's.
Yes.
On a Saturday.
Sent an email to the staff notifying that there were no religious exemptions.
Or medical exemptions.
Yes.
And we all received the same exact letter.
And we all received the same exact letter saying that they were not accepting any of them. And their rationale for that was the fact that due to the patient population, and the fact that the patient population is not vaccinated, that is why they are choosing what they're choosing to do.
We're a risk.
Mind you, that as we all know, the people with the most risk are those who are the elderly, the obese, those with anxiety disorder, actually, and those with type 2 are diabetes in general. Those are the people at risk. The children generally do very well. They do get sick, they can get sick, and it's very scary for parents, for any child to go through a respiratory virus, whether it be rhino, RSV, parainfluenza, influenza, pertussis. But the fact of the matter is that overall, we should be celebrating the fact that children
are doing well.
Really well going through COVID. We should be celebrating that. So instead, they told us on the 25th that they will no longer honor, or they will not honor religious exemptions. Very, very, very few medical exemptions were accepted. And they basically gave us like 3 options.
So interestingly enough, because they didn't meet their September 8th deadline, which initially was put in place, because in my opinion, it's harassing, it's bullying, and we have had staff vaccinate despite the fact that they were hesitant, and if they weren't pushed to, would not have, because they can't lose their job. And to be honest, we can't lose our job, but I also can't compromise my integrity either. And I'm not going to compromise the ethics of what I've spent 20 years creating to be a part of something that now doesn't feel honest and straightforward. And so September 8th was initially the deadline to really give us one more chance to go and get our 2 series vaccination and be fully vaccinated by the end of the month. Well, they didn't notify us by then. I'm hard pressed to think anybody at this point in our group is coercible. However, they missed the deadline. And so when they responded to us on this past Saturday, 5 days before this huge change goes into effect, they let us know we could go and get the Johnson & Johnson shot because it's a one-time shot and we would be fully vaccinated by Friday.
Which is not FDA approved.
We could,
and a huge risk to women because we know the clotting that's happening after the Johnson & Johnson. And
That's right.
This is a woman's profession. I just need to add that there.
Well, so no, that's really important because it's still under EUA, the Johnson & Johnson, that has not been FDA approved.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
And real quick, because I'm going to forget if I don't ask, with all of this, have you guys seen the Comirnaty, or is that, like, if you wanted to go get the actual approved injection, could you go actually acquire the Comirnaty, or is that not?
I have not seen it or found it.
I haven't looked for it.
Yeah.
'Cause I'm
Right,
not-
because you're not.
But-
I've heard that, so I just wondered if that was something that you guys had picked up on, that it's not accessible.
It certainly has not been promoted or advertised as such.
Okay, sorry. So keep going.
Yeah. So that was one, in my opinion, non-option we were given, because if that was an option for us, we wouldn't have requested an exemption or invoked our right to an exemption. So the other option was not to respond at all. If we choose to not respond to the hospital at all, then within a certain period of time, I believe it was 12 days, they would assume we're not interested in our job anymore, and we were voluntarily terminating if we didn't engage with HR in their letter that they sent.
So they gave you the options: go get the Pfizer or go get the Johnson and Johnson. You can walk. You're not interested any longer. And was there a third, or were those the only two
there were
options?
multiple other options.
Yeah.
So the other option was to engage in an interactive process with HR, expressing your interest in a non-patient facing role, which they've now determined can't happen in the hospital, because even if you're in the hallway where a patient might be, that's considered patient facing.
So there are two
There
options.
are no positions.
Yeah.
There are no positions.
So we had, like, for instance, there is a guy in IT who submitted a religious exemption, and he's in IT. He's not around patients. Like, he doesn't have anything to do with patient care, and they denied his religious exemption. And so there's this discussion between the nurses that said, okay, if there's a patient-facing position, I'm interested in it. I want to work. Like, we want to work.
And at this point, that's what we're all asking for. You offered it. Where's our non-patient position? That's your you're required to give us. And now they're saying they don't have the positions.
So they're trying to say that the job is the accommodation.
And they just don't.
What job?
It's a burden.
Any
job.
So a job is the accommodation. So usually when you have an accommodation, you have, like, I don't know.
Testing is an accommodation.
Yeah.
PPE is an accommodation. Sick time is an accommodation.
If you're hearing impaired, then you have hearing impaired accommodations. If you are wheelchair bound, you have wheelchair bound accommodations.
So their accommodation is a non-patient facing position.
Which doesn't exist.
They get out of the accommodation if it creates a burden on the facility. And they do not have those positions for us. Therefore, it is a burden. Therefore, it is not an option.
Which that must
it's unacceptable. Absolutely.
There's another
unconscionable.
One more.
What is it?
And it's a doozy. You can take a 6-month unpaid leave
of absence.
Oh, there's another one. We didn't talk about the separation agreement.
Oh, yeah.
The email was like long. So the other one was unpaid.
Let's go with the
unpaid 6 months. They didn't declare whether or not we would keep our benefits. They did not declare whether or not our position would be held. All it was is this, and they still can't. We've asked them, is the position saved? We don't know yet. Do we get benefits? Apparently we do, but we continue to pay our premiums. They will send us a bill in the mail. So there's that option. And the other option, very interesting, this is probably the cherry on the sundae,
this is the cherry.
is they offered us a separation agreement. They did not include the separation agreement. They did not include the terms of the separation agreement. It's been trickled down through word of mouth that the separation agreement looks something like, I'm voluntarily giving up my position in return for 2 weeks of pay. And I could only assume, we're assuming, that it would include some sort of legal clause where that we couldn't in the future pursue anything. So, but again, people want to know, my option needs to be decided tomorrow. What's the separation agreement? So at this point now, we've inundated them. We have questions, we want answers, we want to know, one, what was your criteria for your decision? You had exemptions. You didn't say you disapproved them. You didn't say you approved them. You didn't outline a criteria. What within my exemption didn't meet your criteria?
And they did offer an explanation to some of us and said that they were not questioning anyone's reasoning or rationale in their exemption. They just weren't accepting any exemptions. And so, they also said, the question also was, well, are other children's hospitals doing this?
Mm-hmm.
And what we know is that other hospitals that do care for young children are offering exemptions.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Yep. That's what I have heard too. So just to recap, the options Rady's gave you is go get the shot, but you only have time for one that's not FDA approved. You can have a non-forward facing role that doesn't exist.
Correct.
Or you can go on an unpaid 6-month leave of absence.
Yes.
And then at which point, or you can have a separation agreement, and we're not even going to tell you what the separation agreement looks like. And you need to tell us tomorrow.
Yes. Yeah.
By 4.
This is madness. How in the world are we living in America and we are actually talking about this like this is real life, and we don't have all of the politicians locally up and down the state up in arms about this, saying that this is an atrocious violation of our constitutional liberties and rights, and that this is violating informed consent and coercion and privacy laws. How is this happening, and how are people not outraged by what is happening?
Well, I want to say that one of the reasons why I think it's happening and it's able to continue to happen is that the narrative from the hospitals is that there are no beds. There are no beds. That's not true. There are beds. There are no nurses. You do not have the nursing staff to provide the care that is needed for the patients that are going to the hospital. We have beds. We don't have staff.
We didn't have staff pre-COVID.
Yeah.
There's a national-wide nursing shortage that's been in place for decades, and it's estimated to triple within the next 20 years.
And
so it's gonna accelerate a lot faster now.
Why aren't people outraged? I'd like to know. I'm a mom. I'm not a politician. I went to my first city council meeting. Oh boy. Oh wow. That's all I got to say about that. Talk about eye-opening. Just a few months ago, I was inspired yesterday at the rally. I have my sign. I'm standing there, but I'm realizing I'm not doing enough. The community needs to hear from us. Yeah. I'm seeing it. We're seeing it firsthand. And I very interestingly had a discussion with Nurse Jenny after the rally yesterday saying, I'm ready. I'm ready to stand up. I'm ready to open my mouth. I'm not going to do this anymore. And within 24 hours, we've both been on the news. I caught Rory Devine in the parking lot and said, oh, you asked for your opportunity. Here it is. And now we're speaking to you. I've been following you for months. I have my own little, 40 followers. Like we're just women. We're moms. We're nurses. We want to work. We want to provide. And this is bullshit. It's bullshit.
We want ethical care for our families and for the children of this community. We want ethical care. And what is going on is it's a travesty as far as I'm concerned.
What happens with, so I spoke with Heather, she's with the Nurses for Freedom earlier today, and there is a massive lawsuit that is actually probably being filed right now as we're speaking, representing 5,000 frontline workers all across California, taking to task this awful public health order that came out of California, which even that I have issues with, but they are taking them to the floor on that. But she was telling me that even up north already, there is such, like you were alluding to, there's already such a crisis with nurses that they are bringing in up north in California already the National Guard. The National Guard is coming in already being trained to replace nurses. Have you heard anything about how they're going to stabilize down in San Diego with the nursing staff that is leaving over this?
they don't want to discuss that. I don't think they want the community to know the impact it will have, specifically on a pediatric community. Rady's has a very great reputation in this town, and it's time they stand up to keep that reputation. And by treating the nurses that, in my opinion, run that facility this way, it's shameful. So you have an.
Why don't you guys tell me too, because you just said like we run this, and you do, because we talked about this backstage. You, I think people need to know that your expertise, like I said, one of you has been 20 years, the other 15 about, but that is so much experience that if you lose that experience and what you guys bring to the service of the role, you can't replace that right away by someone who just popped out of school and is ready, or even a National Guard member. So can you paint that picture a little clearer so that people understand what is at stake?
So some of the machines that we use to help keep people alive are very, we're running these machines, we're doing multiple tests, we're looking at labs all the time. We are titrating multiple medications that these children are using to keep themselves alive.
We're taking care of the sickest children south of LA, children from Hawaii, children from Guam, heart-lung bypass machines. I mean, it's a life or death situation there on a daily basis.
So ventricular device machines, CRRT, so we're doing dialysis for these children, ventilators, so that, we could keep them alive in that respect. We have surgical knowledge, so anyone who's going through specific surgical surgery who needs specific surgical care, we are providing that. This is all stuff, they are literally getting rid of the highest skilled, highest trained professionals of the community. And so it's something to really take pause with.
It is most definitely, like, I don't want to, we're not narcissistic in the fact we run the place, and the fact that it is a team approach.
Sure. But also you're validated in what you're saying. You're not just, a brand new nurse who's just out of school. Like, by run this place, you have a hand in the operation of this. You're the wizard behind the curtain.
Workforce.
Yeah.
If you remove the nurse from that hospital, the hospital doesn't function.
That's what I'm saying. So what happens, you guys? Looking at what's happening right now, where does it go from here?
What happens is unsafe staffing. What happens is when you have a patient that should have one or two nurses taking care of that patient, they only get one nurse. When you have vents that are being paired, vented patients that are being paired, when you have, California has a safe staffing ratios. Yeah. Where, the state has specifically outlined what those ratios are. And they have done that because they want to provide the safest environment for these very sick patients. We are no longer having safe staffing ratios.
And I think a light bulb went off for us about an hour ago, because we were just sitting and talking and digesting everything. And we were like, wait a minute. State mandated patient staffing ratios. These are state mandated in California, I believe, and we're supposed to uphold them. And they're obligated to provide the staff and the breaks. I mean, we run a very tight ship on that clocking in and clocking out. And you have to, there's a lot of criteria that we need to meet legally. And I don't necessarily know how those mandates or staffing ratios will be met with the loss of workforce that they're looking at.
Well, it almost seems like it's being kicked off the cliff, knowing that it's going to cause a complete crippling, and worse than crippling.
What's so interesting that you say that is that today, the California Board of Public Health basically said, due to the fact that we are having a critical nursing issue here in California.
And it hasn't even happened yet.
It hasn't quite happened yet, but because we know it's coming, that those people who are unvaccinated can work for an extra 45 days.
If the facility chooses to allow them to.
Yes. So what does that do? That allows the facility to bring in travel nurses or other nurses to replace us still. So we're still getting replaced.
But it's a lot of people aren't in a position to lose 45 days worth of income.
Yeah.
So they're going to commit to working for 45 days of income, knowing that the end of 45 days, you're out and you're pacifying them and helping them with a crisis that they just created for themselves.
And what I can't get past is you're getting rid of the talent and experience that you guys have combined over 35 years. You can't overnight just replace that. Where are they going to find the people? Like, unless it's going to be like what we're seeing up north where they're training the National Guard. But even then, and we're going into the season that gets the most concerning. So make this make sense. It doesn't make sense to me.
I'm going to, and all respect to the National Guard, bless their hearts, because I'm sure they're going to step into it. It's their duty. They will do it. They will step up. They'll do the best to their ability. I'm hard pressed to think that they're going to be able to provide the care that we can, not because they're not capable, because the time hasn't been invested.
And you also have to realize too, when you work on a unit, you're a team.
Yeah.
You are a team. I rely so much on my
respiratory
therapists,
phlebotomists,
I rely
doctors,
on
everybody.
Yes, I rely on the I mean,
it's trust.
some of our one of my most valued auxiliary staff are the people who clean the rooms, who go in and clean the rooms and clean our unit and make sure that we don't have the dust and the dirt.
And they're part of this as well.
And they are all part of this. It's not.
It's electrical engineering. It's IT. It's parking attendants, cafeteria workers. That place is not. Earlier I said we run the place. I'm going to retract that. We don't run the place. It takes an amazing amount of commitment and effort, and every person that walks through those doors in the morning matters. They make it
all
work.
Matter.
If you're slicing the fruit that the kids are eating for lunch, that matters.
Yeah.
Okay. This isn't just affecting us. And to be honest, now that I think about it, we do okay. We're professionals. Most of us have degrees. We will find a way. There are people we work with that necessarily will not have the means to just go out and get another job to sustain themselves here.
And what is horribly sad too is that we also have tons of experience, like what you shared. We have tons of experience. There are so many young nurses that are saying, I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to get the vaccine, but I just spent 4 years in college getting my nursing degree. I have student debt. I am trying to make my way in the world.
Yeah.
I've only been a nurse for a couple of years. I was so scared to go against the grain. I was so scared to stand up because I didn't want to be the only one, and I didn't know if there were people out there that would support me. And how horrible is that?
I mean, we know, but I'm no longer popular on the job.
Yeah.
I mean, I love my job, and part of the reason I love it is the relationships I have there and the friendships and the camaraderie. And, we keep it, you have to keep it light and fun, because look at what we do every day, and it becomes a family. And to have family members that won't look me in the eyes anymore, to have family members that won't talk to me anymore, to know that this is happening and my phone isn't ringing with people I've worked with for decades saying, what can we do to help? Because it's professional suicide. What we're doing is professional suicide. And it's scary.
It is scary. And the other thing too, the doctors, I work with some amazing doctors, and to hear some of them talk and say that the unvaccinated are the dangerous ones. The unvaccinated are putting my patients in danger, not realizing maybe that I'm not vaccinated. And it's so heartbreaking to hear someone that you respect so much speak about you, and who works with you, and who tells you, thank you so much. You did a great job during that code. That was a great code. That was a great code. We saved that child. You did a great job. And then, hearing the background discussions of the unvaccinated, they're just so dangerous. They can't take care of our patient population because, our patient population is a very sensitive patient population. I've been taking care of those patients for years. I've been at that hospital longer than you have taking care of the community.
And you've been taking care of them with viruses abounding, bacteria abounding, that we've had for years and years and years and years.
Yes. And that's something that I shared with what was his name? Rory Devine. I let Rory Devine at NBC News know that in 20 plus years, I am not aware that I have ever given a patient or even,
or gotten
a
sick,
colleague
or
a communicable disease, nor have I ever contracted a communicable disease at work. In 20 years, I'm skillfully trained on how to use my PPE. That's my job, is to protect myself and my patients. And now you're telling me that I'm a risk. And you know what? We've been doing it all along. What changed between 12 months ago and today? We know more, apparently, even though we're not applying it. We know more. We can do better. We have answers. We know that the community on a whole can get this and transmit it. There is no villained group. How dare you villainize me?
That's the other thing, too, is we know for a fact that vaccinated people can't get the virus, can become infected with the virus, can spread the virus.
They've come to work.
And has the same viral load as someone who's unvaccinated.
If not more. And Harvard just, interesting, I just posted, because I was catching up on the news, and Harvard Business School is, I don't know if did you hear about this?
Yes, I did. They're online.
Okay. They're back to online because and get this, their staff at Harvard is, their staff is 95% or 96% fully injected. And then the students, 95%. And so that's the headline, right? But then what's even crazier is that it's because the vaccinated are the ones who are all testing positive. And so all Harvard Business School, just this, I think was yesterday, is back to online because of this. It's an outbreak of the vaccinated. We saw this in Massachusetts. We've seen this in Israel. So what I know to my core is when something doesn't make sense on the surface, there's something else at play. None of this makes sense. What you're telling me, what Rady's Children's Hospital is doing to you, in light of all of that in the background and the data we have, does not make scientific, logical sense whatsoever. So there's something else at play. And I think that's dangerous games that we're playing going into the fall and the winter with sick children in San Diego.
Absolutely.
Yes. Absolutely. And what's even more disturbing for me is that Rady Children's, their policy is to test the unvaccinated. They are not testing the vaccinated. And there are people who are going to work with maybe some symptoms, and then they end up testing, not because they're required to by the state or by Rady's policy, but because they decide to go test because they develop symptoms and they're positive. And so what's crazy to me is that they're actually allowing people to be unsafe and then accusing us who are being tested on a regular basis as the ones being unsafe. It's just complete hypocrisy as far as I'm concerned. And it's dangerous. It is dangerous hypocrisy.
And I'm not a lawyer, but my understanding is really if you're going to propose and insinuate that I'm a risk, you need to prove that I'm a risk, which means you need to prove that I'm infectious. And that has not been proven.
Well, that sounds like due process. Sounds like there's a little bit of due process being skipped, and that would be a massive violation.
Yes. Well, violation, law.
They don't care. No one cares because no one's holding them accountable. No one's holding them accountable.
In so many arenas. I mean, look at what happened yesterday. Is the voice, where's the voice? And like you said earlier, where are our representatives? Why? I'm happy to do it now. Obviously, I've broken the silence. The face is out there. They know I'm talking.
So many people are scared. So many nurses are scared.
It's scary.
They do not want to talk out.
But where are our representatives?
Well,
I mean,
that's a really, really important question.
I
And,
will.
you know, there are reps that follow along here. So
Mhm.
you're being called out. It is time to get off the high horse where you think that you can just
Yep.
ride above all this and to get in the battleground with your people. This is so, so, so wrong what is
Yeah.
being done in the name of who knows what. I don't even know. Is it still being called public health? Whatever the name of the Trojan horse is, this is so wrong. This is so anti-American, and it must stop now before we have massive county level, state level, country level suicide, because that's what we're heading to. It's a byproduct of whatever this is that we are going to implode from within. This is not sustainable. This is so objectively destructive by nature, and it doesn't make sense. It doesn't follow reason, and it doesn't follow science. And you guys are bearing the burden of it, because tomorrow what happens tomorrow? What
We're
happens?
we don't
We don't
know.
really know.
We are not the public health department or our organization's pawn. I'm not your hero when it suits you to put up a sign and take my picture and, you know, create a situation that benefits you. And then less than a year from now, I'm your villain and you're going to take my picture and put me out there and make me look like I'm a risk and a villain when, again, we've spent our entire adult careers being nothing but the opposite for the community. How dare they do that to me? How dare they do that to her? They should be ashamed.
And all the thousands of nurses out there. And the news just came out recently too, where New York, they fired 70,000 nurses and none of them are going to qualify for unemployment. So they're all going to have to sue for unemployment. It's like, it boggles my mind.
That just
Which,
happened
once
today.
again, where are the feminists out there? Because once again, this is women's work for the most part. This is a way for women to provide for their families, to be professional, to be engaging in their communities, to have a very specific skill set, and they're firing them. And then they're saying, and you don't get to file for unemployment.
It's so wrong. It's so, I mean, it's past wrong. It's evil. It's so anti everything this country was founded on. And that's when I talk about the unraveling and just the suicidal spirit. It's a whole, as a country, like what we're doing is like, it doesn't make sense. And that's where it's like the make it make sense, but it doesn't make sense. And we are going to see very quickly going into this next season how destructive what is happening right now and tomorrow in California, how it's going to play out. And unfortunately at Rady's Children's Hospital, that's going to affect so many children. I mean, my heart breaks for you, but then thinking about those babies, you know, and I have known personally families who have been at Rady's, and I just can't even fathom what this is going to look like for them.
My own children get care at Rady's. My daughter had a horrible broken arm and had to have surgery at Rady's. I mean, they have 90% market share of pediatrics in the community. 90%. That means just about every child receives care in some way at Rady's, and that live in San Diego County, as well as Imperial County and South Orange County and South Riverside County. So, I mean, this is going to have a huge impact on the children. I mean, like, it's just incredible to me.
So what I know that there's the lawsuit was filed tonight on behalf of 5,000, but really it's representative of every healthcare worker in California by Nurses for Freedom. And I posted about that earlier for anyone listening on Spotify or who's watching this. You can check that all out later. But what are you guys going to do about this practically? What are your plans as you near this deadline tomorrow?
Well, I have to say, I mean, we want to work. We want to continue to work. I mean, this is like our job. This is where we have, you know, put our time, and we have, our friends are there, our coworkers are there, our professional experiences there. But unfortunately, the hospital has said we're not welcome. So on Friday, what we're going to do is we are going to bring our shoes. We're going to leave our shoes. We're going to give notes to the community. We're going to have a very somber rally. I mean, it's going to be very
A
sad.
peaceful presentation.
Yeah.
A goodbye, if you will. I'm not necessarily attending work this week. They've sort of let me know how they feel about me. And so I'm going to take this week and, I can't make decisions really when I don't have the information to even make a decision, but that sort of leaves me in a position of not even saying goodbye. Yeah. So Friday will be an opportunity to say goodbye. If people in the community want to come out to our rally and just support choice, is really what we're talking about here. Support adequate care for the pediatric community. And, to piggyback off of what you said, I mean, we do want to work. That has sort of been the goal all along. But this is taxing. And
it is so hard.
It's causing me specifically, and I know a lot of my colleagues, to sort of take a step back and say, is this really something we want to be a part of? So if my job is there for me on Friday, do I really want to walk through the door now? Is that a place where I'm going to put my energy because it's vast and it's special and I'm a commodity? And I don't know if they're deserving of that anymore. So for me, decisions are made sometimes hourly right now.
Yeah, it really, I mean, you're slingshotted this whole month. We've just been slingshotted back and forth, at least me with emotions and stuff. I've been slingshotted all over what's going to happen, what we're going to do.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. I mean, my poor husband, because one moment I'm so angry and I'm like ready to fight, and the next moment I'm literally sobbing as I'm
It's hard
because I am not welcome in the place that I've spent so much time.
I'm so sorry.
There's another place. I keep saying to anybody who doubts this, sometimes we're meant to do other things. And we're talking about a very special group of people, right? Yeah. She touched on our skill set, but it goes far beyond that. Yeah. We're givers. We care for the community. We're committed. We're hardworking. We're intelligent. We're the commodity. So we're coming to your community. We need jobs. We don't want to be a part of this crap anymore. We want to be valued. We want to contribute in a different way. We still have the same skills. We still have the same heart, and we still love. We just need a different venue to do it in.
Yeah. Amen. And maybe that it's not okay. And I'm so sorry. I truly am so sorry. It's so wrong. And who would have ever thought that this is where we would be? My hope in all of this is that this horrible experiment on so many levels is leading us to better pasture, and that some of these systems they're going to burn, and burn meaning like they're choosing to destroy themselves, to self-destruct. And maybe for the better, maybe it's time for better systems and for more freedom, and to get back to the basics of specifically pertaining to your jobs, informed consent, freedom to choose, all that is important and right and good, true sense, logic, critical thinking, good care. And so maybe the old systems are not worthy any longer, and this is going to cause a revival in the sense of new, better things being built, and you will be at the forefront of that. And I'm not advocating for you guys, to quit, because I don't think that they even deserve for you to quit. I want them to have to face you and to have to give it to you and explain to you exactly why they're doing this. I want them to tell you, and to put words into what is so. Go ahead.
We're waiting for them. Yeah, we're waiting for them to give us.
The burden is on them. The burden is on them.
Mm-hmm. Well, just know that so many are standing with you, and so many are so outraged by what is coming down from the California Department of Public Health, and specifically Rady's Children's Hospital. If you care, you send an email to Rady's Children. if you're watching this or listening, and let them know that you are outraged and disgusted and very, very, very concerned about what is happening in our community. And you don't need to be just in San Diego to send those emails and make those phone calls. But, you know, public shaming has a place, and this is so shameful what they are doing. So if you are concerned about this, get proactive. We don't have politicians who are representing us. So we, this community, us, it's time for us to step in and say that this is no longer okay. This is not acceptable, and we don't consent to it. You know, you need to reverse these policies and not get rid of good, qualified staff and create a massive issue going into the fall and winter. So I encourage you, if you're listening and watching this, get on this now. I will post below some emails that you can send to Rady's Children's and let them know how you feel. And that is well within our right. We have freedom of speech to push back against what is so obviously so wrong. So that's my...
Yeah, we do. We need to.
Yep. And then just tell them before we wrap up where they can find your rally that you are putting, and it's like a somber rally, but the somber rally that you guys are doing on tomorrow, Friday.
Positive vibes on what the future's bringing.
But I know, but I guarantee you, it's
like a grieving process.
It's a grieving process. Yeah. It really is.
So it's Friday.
It's Friday, 2 to 4.
2 to 4 p.m.
In front of Rady's.
Right in front of Rady, and it's peaceful. Please bring peaceful vibes.
Peaceful. Please, you know, just
don't bring any hate.
Yeah, just peace.
The kids don't want to see that.
The kids don't want to see
it. If you're frustrated and angry, throw that at Rady's Children's Hospital directly through emails and through phone calls. Yeah. You are well within your rights to do that. But if you go to support these amazing women who have been on the front lines for so long, for so many children, keep it peaceful and keep it sweet. And you can, you know, I think the word meekness is power under control. Exercise meekness, but then when dealing directly with Rady's children, let it fly. Tell them how outraged you are. That's your place. That's how you. That's right. But I just thank you ladies so much. And then also, are you guys actually involved in this lawsuit with Nurses for Freedom, or are you just a byproduct will be involved?
No, I mean, whatever happens at the state level, hopefully will help us. We haven't signed up to be a part of the lawsuit. But thank you to those nurses who have.
Yeah.
Going after the state, which is ultimately causing all of these regulations to come down, is really wonderful.
And Dan Watkins is his last name?
Yeah, so Dan Watkins is the man who is doing the lawsuit, and he does have a GoFundMe. Mm-hmm. And so please contribute to his
Dan
GoFundMe.
Watkins. And we can get you like more specifics on how to do that, if that's possible, to put that on your platform.
Yeah, I'll have you send me the link, and then I'll have it in my bio, and I will also link it below. And that GoFundMe is for this amazing lawsuit that was just filed tonight against the California Department of Public Health on their mandates for all healthcare workers. 5,000 have signed on, I believe, as plaintiffs, and then that will represent the vast number of healthcare workers across California. So it really is a worthy thing.
He has helped police department. Yes. He's helped a fire department. He's helped a multitude of nurses. He's given us advice for free.
Yes.
Over and over. Support. He's an amazing man, and he's doing it all pretty much by himself, for free.
I don't know how he sleeps.
No, I don't think he does.
I don't think he does.
Such a gift.
For weeks.
Yeah. And he's the one heading their motion.
Yeah.
Well, those are 3 ways, because I want to leave people with hope, and then I'm going to let you guys have the final word before we close out. But those are 3 great ways that you can get involved. If this interview fired you up and you see this as I see it, as being so wrong and so un-American, the 3 ways that you can actually step in, because I don't want you to just leave listening to this on Spotify or watching it here and just get depressed and think, oh my gosh, this is horrible. And then you don't do anything about it. And it becomes just an echo chamber in your brain of being overwhelmed. That's not what I want. What I want you to do with all those emotions is to funnel them rightly and righteously. So with that, the 3 things that you can do that are powerful is get emails going to Rady's Children's Hospital. I'll link it below, and tell them how you feel about this. I have links in my bio to find your representatives throughout California. Start emailing the hell out of them and telling them to stand up. They were elected to represent us. So that is so crucial right now. Tell them about what you learned through this and tell them that this is so wrong and so concerning, and they need to start speaking up now and representing the people. And then the third thing you can do is the GoFundMe. So that's a practical way. It doesn't have to be a lot. You can put in a few dollars, but that's a practical way to fund the fighters who are fighting on behalf of these amazing women and so many others who are facing doomsday in California because of no good reason whatsoever. So those are 3 practical ways to move forward with this. And then I just want to thank you ladies so much and just encourage you to keep holding the line. I know it can be scary and it can be hard, but you guys are warriors and we need more like you. And there are so many who are going to be inspired by watching you to stand up. And really that's what's happening, is there is an awakening taking place and there's a shift happening, and there is pasture land after this. I'm convinced. I'm not hopeless, but it's going to burn down the things that are broken and build up better things. And you're going to be a part of that. So with that, do you ladies want to close us out with anything you want to say before we say goodbye?
Well, I personally just want to say thank you so much to the community. I mean, the words of support that I've had from the community is amazing. And so I appreciate every one of you. So I do thank you. And I know there's me, and there's literally hundreds of nurses like me who are so grateful.
Yeah. Don't be afraid.
Yeah.
I've been afraid, and it has been a growth experience. This has not been easy. I trembled yesterday. I even got my heart rate up before I came on with you today. A little outside of the comfort zone, but it's necessary. So be strong, be brave, and the future is bright. It is bright.
Thank you, ladies.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All
and
right.
We'll stay in touch. I'll keep people updated on what's happening with you, warrior, dragon slayer queens. And don't give up hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.